Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Fairfield County Council meeting on this day, Monday, May 11th, 26. At this time, we will please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I get approval for the agenda? It's been motioned and seconded to approve the agenda. If there's no questions, you're prepared to vote. All in favor? Let the record show 6-0. For the record, Mr. Roof called and said that he would not be able to be here tonight. His wife is ill. Now we're down to invocation. Councilman Gobach.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings you have granted us. We thank you for the beautiful weather and especially the recent rains. We ask that you guide us to make the best informed decisions we can for the citizens of the county, and especially as we prepare the budget for the next fiscal year. Again, thank you for everything you have given us and given us beautiful county and all the natural resources you have blessed this county with and all of its citizens. And please watch over everyone. Keep us all safe and healthy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to get your approval of the minutes for regular meeting 4/27/26. Can I get a motion? So moved. Motion and second that we approve the minutes. If there are no questions, prepared to vote. All in favor? Let the record show 6-0. Now we're down to public presentation. Item A is Mega Matters. We understand that they are not able to be here tonight. Next, we're down to the proclamation of recognizing EMS Week. Dr. Roberts.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of council. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the 52nd anniversary of EMS Week's theme is EMS Week, Improving Outcomes. Emergency medical services is a vital public service, and the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Emergency medical services fills healthcare gaps by providing important out-of-patient hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. The emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. The members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Chairman Clarence Gilbert, District 7, and the members of the Fairfield County Council declare the week of May 17th through the 23rd of 2026 to be EMS Week in Fairfield County. We encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities in honor of the EMS profession and the essential service it provides. So ordered this 11th day of May 2026.
Now we down to the proclamation of recognizing Public Works Week.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the 2026 National Public Works Week theme is Rooted in Service, Powered by Community. Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Fairfield County. These infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. It is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of Fairfield County to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. The year 2026 marks the 66th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Therefore, be it proclaimed that Chairman Clarence Gilbert, District 7, and the members of the Fairfield County Council declares the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2026, to be National Public Works Week in Fairfield County. We urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and the government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. So ordered this 11th day of May 2026.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, while you're coming to, I'd like to let our council know and our citizens that outside we have our 2 new fire trucks and a new ambulance that the council has ordered. These can take years to arrive, but there's several new shiny piece of equipment outside for citizens and council to look at when we're done.
I want to thank the EMS and the Public Works for your hard work and what you do for Fairfield County. Without you, we would be lost. So thank you so much for all of your hard work. Now we're down to the housing study analysis. Mr. Carpenter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. So now we have Mr. Joseph Toledo, who's going to review the housing study with the council. This was a study that was completed in 2024, and as part of the strategic planning process, we were presenting it to the council with the goal of having it adopted at a future meeting so it can become part of the strategic plan.
Good evening, members of council. We'll be reviewing the Fairfield County Housing Study and Needs Analysis. So this study was completed by the MRB Group in 2024, and the overall goal is to review the current housing conditions that are in the county, get a better understanding, and have a roadmap for what the future is going to look like regarding new housing construction and development within the county. So the study was prepared by MRB Group, the same group that just did our strategic plan. This was done back in 2024, and its overall purpose is really to evaluate the housing market as it stood at that point in time within the county, and to identify gaps and align housing policy with those gaps that are being seen in the community, and use that as a a roadmap to provide actionable steps moving forward to drive our policy and things like the strategic plan and community development and planning and zoning. So overall, the biggest takeaway from the study is that while the overall Midlands is growing and South Carolina is growing, South Carolina last year, in terms of percentage population growth, was the fastest growing state in the country. While the state overall is growing and the Midlands is growing, Fairfield County is seeing a population decline, a rapid one at that. So from 2010 to 2020, according to census data, lost nearly 15% of our population. Again, that's based on percentage change. So given that we're such a small county, smaller numbers of residents are going to impact us greater than a larger county, say, like Richland County. So at the same time, while our housing supply and the types are not aligned with the community, was what they need. So the mismatch is directly impacting our ability to attract jobs, our ability to attract development, and new construction and investment within the county. So as mentioned, since 2010, the county lost nearly 15% of its population, and that trend is expected to continue if you look at some of these numbers. So since 2010, we lost 15% of our population, but at the same time, our median age increased to 45, which is significantly older than surrounding counties in the region. And if you look at census estimates from 2020 to 2025, Fairfield County is expected to see a population decline of about 3%, while some surrounding counties like Chester and Richland are expected to see growth. And Kershaw County specifically is seeing rapid growth of nearly 12%. So overall, while we also have an aging population, we also have lower median incomes compared to the region at large, and a large outbound commuting workforce. So what that means is the majority of residents in the county are having to leave and traverse outside of county boundary lines for employment. So a lot of what we see is residents leaving during the day, and that does affect daily business in terms of daily business for restaurants and things like that and local businesses in the community, because you don't have as much daytime population here because everybody's leaving for work. These trends directly impact housing demand, affordability, and the types of housing and that are needed in the county. So going back to that net outbound commuting, we're looking at nearly 3,300 commuters that are leaving the county on a daily basis for employment. So our housing inventory is primarily made up of single-family detached homes. These are going to be on larger lots that are predominantly, say, an acre, maybe a little bit more. And that really leads to a very limited diversity when it comes to housing options. So the study also identified that we have a relatively high vacancy rate with the housing stock that we do have in the county. A lot of the housing stock is very old, it's dilapidated, it is not in livable condition, and it was built decades ago. So with the units that have come online, we're not seeing nearly as much investment and development that we need in the county to keep up with the housing trends. And this is not really a Fairfield County issue. I mean, this is an issue statewide. I mean, if you've been keeping track of the housing issue since 2020, it's really been a nationwide issue since 2008. The number of construction and development has really not been keeping up with the pace that is needed. So this is not just unique to South Carolina or to the county. So really, since 2008, the number of the housing stock that we've had, especially multifamily housing in the county, has been very limited. So overall, while the housing prices in Fairfield County are lower than many surrounding areas in the Midlands and South Carolina at large, affordability remains a challenge for many of the residents in the county. Nearly half of the renter households, they are considered cost burden, which means that they spend 30% or more of their income as a percentage on housing. And median home value in general is about $132,000, and median household home owners, they are slightly cost burden compared to surrounding communities. And median renter income is only $20,000, which reflects that nearly 50% of renters are cost burdened. And when you look at the renter portion specifically, a majority of them actually earn an income between $20,000 to $35,000. So really what that means is that while overall housing in the county is affordable, there are still a lot of residents that are struggling to make ends meet with housing demand and their requirements. So looking at workforce housing, a lot of times you'll hear something called affordable housing. Looking at specifically workforce housing, that is housing that is meant to provide housing for those that earn a median income between $40,000 to $60,000. And that is an area that was identified in the housing study that we really have a big need in. So overall, the study identified that within the county, the workforce housing needs are really for that middle income between $40,000 to $60,000. And have expanded market rate housing options, we need to have senior housing and rehabilitation of existing homes. So the study also recommends diversifying those housing types to offer more than just single-family homes, such as townhomes, duplexes, triplexes, those type of things, often what is referred to as the missing middle. So to address the issues that were identified in the study, there were a number of recommendations in terms of combination of policy changes, things like changing our zoning, updating our zoning to allow for higher density. So things like, for example, our RD1 zoning, which is rural residential, that makes up more than 50% of the county, countywide. So that zoning district requires a minimum lot size of 1 acre. So really, when we see more growth coming into the county and we see more development, what that creates is that creates urban sprawl. So by having lot sizes that are 1 acre, that forces people that might not be able to afford 1 acre or have a need for 1 acre to have one. So what that does is that really pushes development outwards and makes the overall communities that were being built by these subdivision developers larger. Hence the urban sprawl. They're just getting wider and wider and spreading out, which over time, compounded for decades of growth, is going to lead to loss of natural resources. So changing zoning policy can help to address those particular issues, and having organizational improvements such as improving staffing with the county to address some of these things, and working with things such as the Department of Environmental Services to address some of these concerns that are within the community regarding natural resources and growth. So it includes a variety of different things such as reducing barriers to development, having a housing policy in place to incentivize development of the type of housing that we do want to see, townhomes and multifamily housing and everything like that, as well as identifying housing sites that you could reference to a developer to say, hey, listen, this property has already been approved for this type of development and everything like that, to help expedite that process of the planning process and everything like that, and to reduce the risk for the developer. So overall, the study recommends also establishing a housing committee, and that would meant to create the policies that are in the plan to help support future housing growth. So the housing study was intended to align with the overall broader strategic plan that's ongoing right now. So the housing plan really is a component of the housing portion that was identified in the strategic plan. And it is recommended for adoption in the plan. And it really establishes the county's overall direction, and the study helps to provide a detailed framework similar to what the strategic plan is, providing baby steps for the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, 4 years in terms of addressing that housing policy. And specifically, it helps to ensure coordination between housing, infrastructure, planning, land use policy, and overall economic development within the county. It's all connected. So next steps would be to include council consideration, as well as adoption of the housing study. And then at that point, it would be implemented to keep track of the dashboard that is being implemented through the strategic plan. So as we go ahead and implement these changes that are identified in the housing plan, we can see where that progress is in relation to what the study has recommended and where the overall trajectory is for the strategic plan. Any questions?
Any questions, council? Mr. Bell.
Good evening, Mr. Toledo.
Evening.
I have several questions in reading the study. I guess the summary of the study. I haven't completely read the MRB's complete study. Rehabilitation of existing housing stock. what would be the recommendation for rehabilitation? Who would do the rehabilitating? Would it be the people who own the present property, or federal or county assistance?
So that would be primarily driven by the private sector, as well as the property owners themselves. So, such as having programs such as a grant program to go ahead and have, let's say, a street appeal beautification program to help give $1,000 to a property owner to paint the house and address some of those blighted issues, as well as something that's already been done, which is adoption of the Bailey Bill. So especially when it comes to historic properties, because of the property tax difference, let's say somebody buys a historic property and all of a sudden they make a very large investment to the property, they immediately get a tax hike. So having something like the Bailey Bill in place would help to drive development into those older housing stock that could classify as historic, and help keep their property base lower to help incentivize them to go ahead and redevelop those properties.
All right, thank you. The second question is, what are some of the regulatory barriers that exist now to development?
So a lot of it's going to be larger. So when it comes to the zoning within the county, RD1 and RD, right? Those are going to make up more than 50% of our zoning districts countywide. So those zoning districts require on lots that are on well and septic, which is the majority of the county, have lots of 1 acre or more. So that does limit individuals, because now, let's say you're looking to buy a home, not only is your land base higher, but in order to develop a larger lot size, that also includes, running a longer driveway, having to run longer electrical lines, plumbing lines, and that does affect overall costs. So by having implement those requirements in place, that you have a minimum lot size of, say, 1 acre, that is forcing individuals to buy a lot size that they might not want to have. And there are ways around it, such as family exemptions, but the majority of what we're seeing is when people come into the county and they're looking to build their own home, some people from desire are buying much larger lots than that, but especially on the lower economic scale, it does also impact individuals for being able to build a home because of the larger land requirement. So what that would look like is reducing that requirement from, let's say, 1 acre to half an acre or a quarter of an acre. And what that would allow is that would allow individuals to go ahead and subdivide smaller lots in the rural parts of the county.
Okay, so
That's one example of a zoning hindrance, yeah.
So presently, for example, for the viewing audience and other questions, if I have a 1 acre lot, what can I build on it?
It depends on the zoning. So,
What is the zoning presently?
so let's say if you're looking at the majority of what the county is, that's RD1, which is rural residential. So that would allow for things such as mobile homes, single-family homes, modular homes, agricultural type uses such as homesteads, family community lots, things of that sort. But that zoning requirement of the minimum of 1 acre does prevent some people from being able to subdivide their land in order to build on it. So when you're looking at areas like that, typically the ratio is 1 primary dwelling to 1 acre. So if a family wants to, let's say, subdivide off land and they want to go ahead and sell it to a neighbor, and that neighbor is looking to build a home for their child, that lot would have to be 1 acre. And some people don't want that. Some people can only afford a quarter of an acre, half an acre. As land prices go up, and as we continue to have affordability constraints in South Carolina, that does become an issue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it not, am I wrong, but if you want to live in the country and you have to have a septic tank, don't you have to have an acre to have a septic tank?
That's the zoning requirement, yeah. So that's a zoning requirement. That's not necessarily a requirement that is from Department of Environmental Services. So the county, we don't issue septic tank permits, and everything that is subterranean, including wells and septic tank systems, are issued by the state Department of Environmental Services. They do have some of their own regulations, but is well below an acre. That's a zoning, that's driven by zoning policy, not necessarily a requirement because of the permitting.
Okay.
Mr. Goba?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Toledo, thank you very much. This was completed in 2024, which was before we had a chance to restart the VC Summer 2 and 3 project. If that project restarts down the road, we'll have more employees working at that site. Can we predict or anticipate the additional type of housing that would support keeping them in Fairfield County and not having them commute back and forth?
That's something that we could look at, maybe updating the plan to address that specific need, especially as we get more of the temporary workers. It's really going to be a challenge to see of the temporary workers how much are going to stay behind after the project is completed. With the thousands of employees that they're expecting in that area, there's little to no infrastructure out there. So you're talking about thousands of people potentially wanting to live in that area where there's no well and there's only well and septic, and that area does require those larger 1 acre lots. So that is going to lead to, let's say, a developer is wanting to build 100 housing units, essentially to have 100 acres plus. Whereas if you have housing policy that allows higher density to go ahead and reduce that size, they might be able to fit the same number of houses on 50 acres, for example. So having that housing policy in place, especially when it comes to very large numbers of individuals like what's expected at VC Summer, can really lead to larger urban sprawl and much larger impact to the overall land because of that zoning policy.
I'm trying to understand, is the study focused and concentrated on now or the future? Because there's something in the study which I hope you can help me to understand. You say the county is experiencing population decline while the region grows. In the next line, you say housing supply and types are not aligned with needs.
So looking at the population decline, that was from 2020, the 2010 to 2020 census data, right? Reflecting that we had a population decline of 15%. And those estimates that are listed there on this slide, this census estimated data is projected from 2020 to 2025. Again, this is estimated. So obviously as the census official data comes out in 2030, we'll go ahead and take a look at that again to see if it's indeed correct. But in general, what that is really showing is that while the population is declining, our community is aging, and you're going to have start to see issues, when it comes to aging in place. So especially amongst the lower economic class in Fairfield County, they might not have the funds in order to adapt their home to age in place. So it does provide recommendations such as having a grant program for people above a certain age in order to apply for to make small improvements such as handrails and ramps in their home in order to accommodate aging in place. Because the housing that we have and the housing development that we've seen doesn't accommodate those income requirements, especially when it comes to aging in place. Almost all the housing we have in the county is single family and single story and two-story single family homes. Very limited options when it comes to multifamily housing, as well as things such as townhomes, which would allow for higher density and more affordability.
The question I've got, well, with the soon-to-be completion of the Winsboro Connector and conversation with developers about putting homes here in the area, this should sort of hinder some of that decline. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So as part of that, I mean, it's all connected, right? So when a developer is really looking to develop in the community, they're going to see what the capacity is for infrastructure. And a lot of what we've seen thus far is for the housing developments that we have gotten proposals for. It's not really sewer it's as much of the issue. It's actually the water. Mm-hmm. So the reason for that is that when it comes to larger housing communities, they do require fire protection, which would be fire hydrants. When there's no public water in the area, a developer has to figure out how am I going to pressurize the system in order to service 100 homes. That's a very large investment that a lot of developers are not willing to make. So by having those infrastructure in place, such as the water and the sewer, that's going to really help to steer these developments in those particular areas and those growth nodes that were identified in the comprehensive plan to really push development in that area. That's not to say we won't see development countywide, in areas that are going to be on, like, say, sewer and septic, but then it's going to be on larger lot sizes, more spread out communities in order to accommodate well and septic systems.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Welcome.
you. Now we're down to public comment session. Dr. Roberts, we have anyone signed down?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. James Thomas.
How y'all doing? I brought a box of crayons tonight. We might be able to draw a picture because me talking doing nothing. I own a small business at Cathcart Pond Drive, and we have a cattle guard there made out of old railroad iron. And we have to go to the right of it to get equipment through there to run my business. Every year they put this wings and wheels show on. I've asked, do not block my access to my business. Every year it gets blocked. I feel like I'm a cockroach getting stepped on, my business by this county. Denise Bryant with the Fairfield County Airport puts this show on. She's been told, don't block it. Year after year after year, I get blocked. Cannot get equipment safely down to my business. Nobody cares because I've called everybody before. They know. The Chamber of Commerce puts it on, I've called them. Nothing's been done. I support it 100%. The air show, I think, is good for the county. They don't support me as a local business. It costs me money. All I ask, don't block the access to my business so my customers can get in safely. They put combs in the driveway before. I've had employees come down there, get hollered at, cussed at. I've had customers the same way. And I'm tired of it. I'm a small business, and that's the way I'm gonna get treated from this county. Other day, it was blocked. I had to get the sheriff's department to move cars. Thanks to the sheriff's department. Thank you for moving them. Denise Bryant didn't care. I said something to her, and she looked at me, and she said, well, I'm glad this is my last year doing it. Y'all can figure it out next year. That's what I get from a county employee for trying to protect my business. I'm coming out with my boxing gloves on. Something's got to be done. And I'm asking y'all, thank you, Mr. Pollen, the other day for getting on the ball for me. I shouldn't have to go through this every year. It's one way in there, and it's one way out of there, Cathcart Pond Drive. There's other people that live on there at inconvenience. Somebody could do something, but nobody's doing a dang thing about it. And it's bad that this is the way small businesses in Fairfield County get treated. And I don't know what to do. I've asked and I've asked and I've asked. I got the sheriff's department to do a report this year on it. And it ain't gonna do no good. It was enough people standing around, they could have directed traffic. In planning this event, that ought to be one of the things, like having enough trash cans to throw trash in. Not blocking my driveway. It's not my responsibility. I don't put this show on. Thank y'all.
No one else signed up to speak, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, public hearing, none. Ordinance, resolution, and order. Dr. Roberts, if you would.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Third and final reading, ordinance number 853, an ordinance to consider the request to amend the Fairfield County Land Management Ordinance number 599 and the related zoning map to provide for the rezoning classification from RD1, Rural Residential District, to B2, General Business District, to allow for a retail store and/or venue space use, tax map number 186-01-14-008-000, located at 1053 U.S. Highway 21 South, Ridgeway, South Carolina 29130, owned by Kevin and Clarethia Glover. Note, the Fairfield County Planning Commission approved this rezone request.
Okay, Council, you heard the reading of the ordinance number 853. May I get a motion? So moved. Been motion and second. If there's any question, all prepared to vote, say aye. Aye. Opposes? Let the record show 6-0. Resolution number 2026-5. Dr. Roberts.
A resolution by Fairfield County Council to appoint and commission a code enforcement officer pursuant to and as provided by South Carolina Code 4-9-145.
May I get a motion to this resolution? You have a motion and second. Any questions?
I got one. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Paul, this is not a new position. This is a position we have in the budget, so it's already been approved by council.
Are you prepared to vote? All in favor? Commission, board and commission minutes, none. Board and commission appointments, none. Old business, strategic plan, adoption. Mr. Carpenter?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, for a number of months, we have been putting our citizens, our staff, and our council in situations to understand what our citizens are looking for as we look to the future. We've had numerous meetings. The previous meeting, this was presented to council for consideration. We have received some feedback from council. The feedback has been added to the plan to make sure that the final draft will reflect your thoughts about it. Is mostly in the way of scrivener's errors and things like that. So we present it to you tonight with a request that this be adopted and approved.
May I get a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? Prepared to vote? All in favor? Let the record show 6-0. New business, none. County Administrative Report, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, I asked our new director of our detention center to come back. He was introduced to you previously when he was hired, but he got a month vacation. So he now has come back. Monday was his first day. Mr. Graber hit the ground running. Some of y'all had a chance to come out and meet detention center staff, but I asked Mr. Graber to come back and just, now that he's been here for a little bit, to give you an opportunity to ask him any questions maybe that you would have and to let him say anything that he would like to say.
I would just like to say thank you for having me. My first week, I guess you could say I hit the ground running, trying to handle some things that needed to be handled, making phone calls and putting things in place. Just want to say those who did come out to the cookout that I sponsored last Friday, thank you for coming. It was a pleasure having you, talking to you, and getting to know you, and I hope to get the chance to know the rest of you as well.
Anyone like to say anything?
Mr. Graber, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here in Fairfield County. I apologize I couldn't make the cookout, but I saw the pictures, looked like a great event, and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, I couldn't get
Ms.
here
Swears.
either. And I sent a couple of people to do a good job. I hope they did. And I hope the next time you do it, you check my calendar and be sure I can come, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Got you.
Mr. Gobart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome aboard, Mr. Graber. I read your resume. It's quite impressive, and I wish you all the luck in making sure that we can address all of the audit findings and make sure we don't get into further trouble. I'm confident you will. And I also apologize for not being there Friday. I already had a thing planned months in advance for that whole day. I was up in Charlotte, so but welcome aboard.
No problem, and you all will be seeing a lot of me. Like I say, I've started the ball rolling on some things and meeting with Criminal Justice Academy this week to see what needs to be done. So
I'd like to say also welcome on board. Heard a lot of good things. In fact, someone from the state called and said the best thing we could ever done was get you to work with us. I like to apologize also, but I do run a business and I was unable to be there. But thank you for what you are going to do with the detention center. We look forward to bigger and better things.
Thank you for having me once again.
Mr. Gasson.
Well, I'd like to thank you, sir. I was there, and we had a good time, and I met some of your officers, and it seemed like you have a great group there, and I talked with you a good little while, and it sounded like you got a good strategy plan. So keep up the good work, and thank you for coming to Fairfield County, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Carpenter? Okay. Clerk of Council report, none. Council times. Any councilman wish to say something? Mr. Pauly?
Mr. Thomas, I appreciate you coming to speak tonight. The Wings and Wheels Festival is a great event. It's a great event for Fairfield County. But Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Burrows, it should not affect his business. And if y'all don't mind, if y'all would reach out to Mr. Thomas to make sure that in the future we do everything possible not to interfere with his business.
Anyone else? Mr. Gobart?
Yes, thank you. Just one quick one, Mr. Carpenter. The animal shelter volunteer situation with the new policies and so forth, the application, can you give us an update on that, please?
Yes, Ms. Goldbach, I've asked Deputy Administrator Burrows to kind of spearhead that, and so he's going to give you where we are and where we're going.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Council. Mr. Goldbach, yes, our plan is to roll that out next week, the applications, procedures, policies. We're going to look over it one more time this week. We've gotten some input from volunteers that were at the shelter before, got their input. We've analyzed some of their ideas and thoughts. Some fit, some were good, some didn't fit in what we have. So the plan is for next week to have that rolled out along with the first orientation date and time.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Burrows.
Yeah, we'll have that available on our website, and once it's ready, we'll push it out to you.
Anyone else? I'd like to make the announcement that we will not have another, we only have one meeting this month. And also to remind you that the fire trucks and ambulance are outside for your viewing. May I get a motion to adjourn? Mr. Carpenter, Bill.
This question is for administration. What is the status on the transit department?
Yes, sir, Mr. Bell. So as you know, there's been some changes at Transit, and currently we have the acting director is Mr. Tim Martin. Our EMS director has stepped in to provide them the day-to-day oversight and leadership. We are beginning a multiple facets of how we're looking at where we're going with the organization, as far as recruiting the best leader that we can find, or as far as finding other alternatives and running and managing that service. It is a critical service to our citizens of this county. It provides very needed services that a county our size is rarely able to provide. So we're fortunate that we have that available. So my commitment to you, as it was with the jail, is that we will put the best possible people or solutions in front of you, some of which would require your decision if that's the direction we want to go, others would require mine. But we will look to have that in the near future. It is not something which I anticipate dragging on for weeks and weeks and months, as Mr. Martin would certainly hope it doesn't.
Have you had your meeting with Richland County?
Yes, sir, I have had the initial meeting with that, and I'll be briefing the council as I get to the point where I can start sharing some information with you.
May we get a motion, Mr. Cass? A motion to adjourn? Second. It's a motion and second that we adjourn. Is there no questions? If you're in favor, say yay, nay, yay. Yay.